everyone. Thank you for coming through. My name is Megan Lopez, one of the Old Pueblo Archaeology Centers for Board of Directors. I help set up policy for the organization. With me today is Annabelle Galindo. She's also going to help me host this presentation and help us at the end of the program to read off any questions or comments you have in the chat. Al is with us as well. He's going to help us run this Zoom smoothly for us tonight. So thank you, Al, for being here. Today we're going to be hearing from Dr. Martina Dawley, PhD. So this is very exciting. So thank you, everyone, again. Thank you for joining us this evening. We do have here at Old Pueblo Archaeology Centers for Archaeology a land acknowledgement statement. Old Pueblo Archaeology Center respectfully acknowledges that our nonprofit organization occupies and conducts our activities on land and territories of Indigenous peoples. Today, Arizona is home to 22 federally recognized tribes, with Tucson being home to the Thalna-Atham and the Yaqui communities. Committed to diversity and inclusion, Old Pueblo strives to build sustainable relationships with sovereign Native nations and Indigenous communities through education offerings, partnerships, and community service. The Indigenous Interest Project is a series of bi-monthly online Zoom webinars in which members of Arizona Indian tribes are given the opportunity to give presentations about their people's perspectives, concerns, and interests in today's world, and how those viewpoints may or may not mesh with those of non-Indigenous peoples. Old Pueblo Archaeology Center gratefully acknowledges the support of Arizona Humanities, which provided a grant to make these Indigenous interest programs possible. During tonight's Zoom session, as I had mentioned, if you have a question or comment, please click on your Zoom chat or Q&A button and type your question or comment there. As Old Pueblo's hosts, we will all see the chat and Q&A entries, and we'll relay as many of them as possible to our guest speaker in the time we have allotted at the end of the presentation. So let's see here. Let's get started with introducing Dr. Martina Dawley of the Diné and Hualapai Nations. We're delighted to bring her. She's also one of the board members for Old Pueblo Archaeology. Dr. Dawley received her Bachelor of Arts degree in Anthropology with the focus on southwestern archaeology. She earned her Master's of Arts doctoral degrees in American Indian Studies from the University of Arizona, with a focus on caring for ancestral remains and their belongings as it relates to repatriation and heritage preservation. Dr. Dawley is not only a member of Old Pueblo Archaeology's Board of Directors, she is the Director of Tribal Historic Preservation Officer with the Hualapai Nation's Department of Cultural Resources in Peach Springs, Arizona. Her responsibilities include preserving and managing the cultural resources of the Hualapai people, while adhering to standards established by the Hualapai Cultural Resources Ordinance and the Hualapai Nation's Tribal Historic Preservation Officer, and to the U.S. Secretary of Interior standards. Please welcome Old Pueblo Archaeology Center's Indigenous Interest Speaker, Dr. Martina Dawley.
Thanks for the introduction. Alrighty. Well, hi everybody and good evening. I'm hoping your evening is going well. Just a forewarning, probably like every 20, 30 minutes, we might have a little bit of background noise from the train. So I will speak a little bit louder, and that's just the novelty of where I am located right now in Peach Springs. And our offices are actually located right off of Route 66. Okay, so I want to give you a little bit of a presentation overview, so we kind of keep an eye on the time. I'll introduce myself. I would like to share with you the tribal archaeologist duties and explain to you why I am qualified for this position. And then we'll open it up for questions and comments. So I'm Martina Dawley, as they heard, as the introduction went. And I'm Navajo or Diné on my mother's side, and I'm Hualapai on my father's side. For Navajo, you know, being Navajo on your mother's side, I definitely am Navajo because we're maternally, our lineage is maternal. And for Hualapai, I definitely am Hualapai because our lineage is paternal. So I identify as both Navajo and Hualapai, or Diné and Hualapai. I am Hualapai. I grew up here when I was really young, and I remember crossing the streets back and forth right out here on Route 66 to get to school. I left for a very long period of time, and when I came back, my aunts or my aunties had calculated how long I had been away, and I had been away for a good 48 years. But, you know, I still maintain some kind of contact with the community. And it was really neat, you know, as a kid, it was like boring and, you know, you're way out in the middle of nowhere, and I didn't have such a great, you know, time growing up here as a kid. But now that I'm here as an adult, it's quite different. It's beautiful, it's amazing, and there's so much to do. I walk every day, and I just love, you know, what it feels like, and the air is super, super clean. So I just love being back, being home, and being around my family and my community. So, you know, who I am basically relates to where I'm from. And for me, I'm from here in Hualapai. My band is the Big Sandy Band, which is located in the Big Sandy Basin area. If you're familiar with Highway 93, it's really in that area where Wikiup is. And I'm also of the Blue Mountain group, which is up in the mountains here on my both on my father and my grandfather's side. So I'm definitely you know, from this area. On my Navajo side, I am definitely my mom, you know, through her lineage. I'm Klashche, which is the Red Tibet clan, and the Kiani, which is the Towering House clan. And those are basically who I am. And if there are any Navajos out there, Yag, my relations. If there are any Hualapais out there, Damu to all my relations. Our community here in Hualapai is quite small, so I can honestly say that I am quite related to almost everybody, and it's just an amazing feeling to have a place, a sense of place, and, you know, being here and being home. So I'm going to just give you a little bit of, you know, why I'm here. You know, I went to school, I focused in archaeology, I focused in anthropology, and it's just been an amazing journey with my studies. And out of nowhere, you know, this position pops up as a tribal archaeologist. And I was not very happy in my previous job at the Arizona State Museum, where I was the tribal liaison for all the tribes here in the state of Arizona. Not if the uneasiness there was just pretty much related to the fact that I was on the agency side. And that was really a tough situation to be put in as a Native person. So I told myself, as soon as there's an opening to be on the tribal side, I am definitely going to go for that. So I did. And when I saw this, I definitely jumped at the chance. And I definitely was qualified. And when I looked at the duties, it related to everything that I had studied and the experiences I had working at ASM, and also my experience working as a contract archaeologist. So, you know, my duties include preserving and managing cultural resources, plan and execute projects, and, you know, kind of, I took these words off of the job description, but to plan and execute projects involved our surveys that we conduct here on tribal lands when it comes to any kind of planning, any kind of environmental assessment. So we have a lot of those things going through. Oh, thank you, Al. And there's the adhering to the policies, basically, which is super important. With that, you know, it really relates to how I prepare, review, and oversee our cultural resource section as it applies to NEPA and NEPA, National Historic Preservation Act, and the National Environmental Policy Act. So with that, I, you know, I have to coordinate with the agencies, both federal and state, when it comes to Section 106, when it comes to consultation, and when it comes to NAGPRA. So it's very diverse and very, very broad. So one minute, you know, I'm out in the field monitoring or overseeing our monitors that are out in the field at a site when there is, like, you know, some human remains or grave cultural remains, you know, and their associated cultural objects that are found with them, then, you know, then I'm out there supervising that and making sure that the archaeologists and the company that they're working for are following the correct protocols, especially with demining companies. So again, it's just very, very broad. It's very diverse. And then I conduct cultural resource related studies and research, and a lot of that is related to our yearly river monitoring trip. That's also related to a lot of my interests that I had, you know, went to school for. So, you know, those things are related. So again, you know, because I'm no longer in the university setting, I am not escaping the publishing not qualifications, but the requirement to publish. So these are things that I have to stay on top of. So it's very, very broad, very diverse, and super, super busy. So I probably average a combination of 106 consultation, you know, any kind of correspondence with a federal agency or state agency. I probably average anywhere from 25 to 30 emails a day, or, you know, phone calls. So it's kind of nuts. I can honestly say that, but I'm slowly and becoming comfortable with that. But as a tribal archaeologist, we don't dig. We don't go out and do any, excavations. We don't go out to study, any kind of human activity. Our job is to be able to go out to these places, and usually I'm accompanied by one of our elders. We go out there to survey, look at the area, make sure that there are no disturbances, and also to be on top of the federal and state agencies throughout, that, especially like on our ancestral territories. So you can go to the next slide, Al. So here I'm just going to tell you, why am I qualified? Because a lot of times it could be quite contentious to claim yourself as an archaeologist. I went through that with the field of conservation. There's a very inclusive attitude towards that. So to be an archaeologist, you have to have a specific degree, you have to have done so much field work with a specific area, you have to publish, there are all these criteria in becoming an archaeologist. So why was I qualified to be the senior archaeologist here? Well, number one, I'm educated and I'm Hualapai. That was a huge plus for me, was being a tribal member. I meet the Secretary of Interior's professional qualification standards, and those standards include a degree, field work, and research. So my degrees, specifically in my bachelor's degree, I studied anthropology with a focus in Southwest archaeology and a minor in geology, which really was important because it really taught me how to identify, how to conduct any kind of project. So that's really key to it. So as I moved forward in my studies, I went into the American Indian Studies program, and I focused a lot on Indian law and policy, but I also focused that in cultural preservation, cultural heritage, and I really had an interest in archaeological conservation. And that was my goal originally, was to be a conservator, but that didn't really pan out because, again, an extremely inclusive group of people where the schools are far and in between, expensive, and it's pretty much a program for a younger person or an extremely rich old lady, which I did not qualify for. And then my field work, I counted all my field work as a contract archaeologist. And the important thing is that during that time in my field work, I was able to become one of those field workers that actually caught on. I wrote quite a few reports. I started out as a laborer. I was still labeled as a laborer because I didn't have a degree, but I was in charge of the new people who had a degree to teach them how to dig and what to look for, and to make sure that they understand what a floor is, looking at the profiles and such, post holes, whatever. So that's, what I did. But again, I wasn't considered a real archaeologist. I was just one of the laborers because, again, I didn't have any of these degrees at that time. And my research falls back into, the research I've done throughout my academic career. The main thing is that you're able to write anything that's professional and coherent, and start a project and end it. And usually a lot of times you need to write a lot of reports. So I am super busy writing reports and letters and, you know, all kinds of stuff. So one minute I'm, you know, writing a letter to the BLM, the next minute I'm writing a report on our river rafting trip, and then I am also writing a short history for the tribe's employee handbook. So being a tribal employee, in addition to my job description, and also, you know, dealing with tribal archaeology, you really have to be able to sometimes set boundaries, but step up and do the work. I've met so many amazing groups of people. I've worked with our veterans. We are continuing a project that was started many years ago, looking for the veterans and the cemeteries, the veteran cemeteries. So that was really neat, you know. I've helped them set up their exhibits. We did an exhibit here for Memorial Day and Veterans Day. So just anything, you know. I drove a truck, our department truck, in a parade. I you know, participated in so many different events here before COVID, and then even after COVID, but you know, remotely. So it's really multifaceted working here, and yeah, so that's, you know, why I qualified for this position. And I think it was really important that I am Hualapai, because there are a lot of things here that I'm going to have to, you know, flip around, because we've had non-native people in these positions as the director, and a lot of our presentations are written from that perspective. And so we're working on fixing that. And it's not a bad thing, it's just the way things are. But yeah, those are my responsibilities as a tribal archaeologist, also the director, and I'm also the THPO. But, you know, to make things a little easier, I am so open to questions and discussions, because I kind of like the back and forth of speaking to people. So please, 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 if you have any questions, you want to chat, we can do it right now. Al, you can flip to the next slide, and that will open it up for the Q&A. But I'm going to do a little plug before we start that. The image here that you see is a sacred spring, which is located near Wikia, Arizona. And it's in an area that we call Traya Canyon Ranch. And it is in jeopardy because the property is not very big, but the surrounding area is BLM land, and it is now being threatened by exploratory drilling. And as we all know, you know, we have a Clean Air Act or that's going on. So, you know, there's a push for more lithium. So the lithium mining companies that are from Australia and, you know, other countries are really looking at our area. And if you're not aware of the lithium belt that stretches all the way up to northern Nevada and down to southern Arizona, I would highly advise you learn about that, because the lithium mining companies are coming in, and a lot of them are taking advantage of the past administration and their you know, and their policy to expedite the NEPA process, which was just like so frustrating. So anyway, I just wanted to plug that. And in Hualapai, that's our sacred springs. It's called Hakamwe. And we will be forming a coalition with all the other tribes that actually have come here. Hopi has come here, and they have a pilgrimage once a year or so and take a little bit of the water because it's very sacred. It's warm. I broke my ankle and I actually soaked my foot in it, and I wouldn't say it healed me right away, but it does have healing qualities. So anyway, so questions, comments, I'm here, I'm open. There goes a train. What are you doing to get the tribal youth involved in archaeology? Well, we do try to stay active in that March. Each March is Archaeology and Cultural Heritage Month. This year it's just been a little crazy, and I was not involved, but we put together a book on archaeology. I think the ways that we have proactively been involving the youth is through our river monitoring trips. The river monitoring trips require that we do an ethnobotany. It's not so much research, but we go out there and look at the plants and record and check out their conditions. And then there's an archaeology component. So we go out there and we look at the cultural resources, the archaeology, and we take note of their condition. So that's one way. And with the monitoring trip, we're required to bring the youth out there. Other things that we've done, is having talks and taking the youth to the different locations and introducing them to the rock art that's out there and some of the different sites, and letting them know, that this is where we are, this is who we are, and this is where we're from, and definitely teaching them how to care for and to not desecrate any of those areas.
We have a question here from Catalina. Hi, Catalina. What advice would you give to current Indigenous university students who want to get into the tribal preservation work?
The advice I would give is to stay current with your tribal ordinances, cultural ordinances. Stay current with the local BLM that's in that area. Stay current to understanding, where your ancestral territories are. It's very important. And definitely stay current to your ancestral belongings, like, the artifacts that are found out there during surveys. And, if you can, volunteer, find out if they need monitors, find out if there is any programming, and, volunteer your time. And just really stay in contact with your tribe. I'm finding that, that is something that, I should have been doing, but I think I did it from a very different side through my studies in archaeological conservation and interviewing people. But yeah, definitely just keep that relationship.
There's another question from Gerald. Can you talk about some of your projects?
Yeah, I think I can talk about some of my projects. Some of them are a little sensitive. Okay. So like I was talking to you about our looking at the cemeteries, the project was started like about, 8, 9, 10 years ago. And, tribal members kept coming up and asking, we heard you had a list, where is that at? After some research, I found out that yes, there definitely was a project that started. And so we have begun the process of identifying all the areas that we will be going to and that we have already gone to, looking for those areas, those sites. So that's, one project that I'll stay brief with that. Another project that we're dealing with is, the lithium mining situation, and then also Snowball. We're dealing with two different entities, the Forest Service and also the BLM, and that's extremely hard to talk about because we are very much trying to right the wrongs that have been happening. So for example, with the Forest Service, they sent out a master plan. Well, they didn't send out the master plan. It was the Snowball Corporation that sent out their master plan to develop more on the mountain. And if any of you have been to Flagstaff, the mountain is not that big. And to see that master plan was just overwhelming with what they wanted to do with it. They also want to pipe in some more of the reclaimed water to make more snow in another area. And right now they're at a halt because they have been operating on an expired MOU, which is really something that we are working on to make sure that they are adhering to their laws and also adhering to appropriate consultation. So that's what's going on there. I told you about the lithium mining situation. Another a more like I would say fun program that we are our project that we're going to be working on is it's a graffiti removal project on some petroglyphs petroglyphs that were found. The graffiti was found in one of the parks near Flagstaff, and so the Forest Service from that area contacted us to let us know that they were going to remove it and use, what's typically called elephant snot and scrubbing. I presented that to our elders and they were like, no, you can't do that. That's, probably not a good idea. So we contacted the Forest Service and had a great meeting with them. So this is where I was able to actually apply my conservation and contact all, some of my conservator friends and just say, okay, what can we do? This looks very troublesome. I personally was not happy with how they wanted to proceed in the graffiti removal. So we're right now working on our own I don't want to call it elephants, but we're working on our own version of, some kind of compound to remove. And so right now, because we're working on that, I'm not at liberty to share. Same with elephants, they are not at liberty to share what the ingredients are in that concoction. So anyway, so that's kind of exciting. So we've been really brainstorming, and it's fun to brainstorm with the staff to figure out, okay, what can we do to safely remove the graffiti? So that, those are just some of the things that, we do here.
Okay, you have a couple questions. Next is, if a member of the public is interested in learning more about the tribe, what opportunities are available to them to interact and communicate with tribal archaeologists?
So in general, I don't think there's really any way that you can actually interact with the tribal archaeologist. Um, so that's a good question. I don't know. I mean, yeah, that's a good question. I think in the past, there were groups of people that would come through and volunteer on surveys, you know, just, yeah. One way, and what we're doing here is, we do have a cultural sensitivity booklet. So we are working on creating a presentation to conduct cultural sensitivity training. And we are also working on creating our own monitoring program. So those are ways that, you know, we can actually be involved with, you know, getting to know people. I would say just simply calling up the cultural resources department and asking, and maybe you can actually specifically ask, like, you know, we'd like to see a presentation, we'd like to come and visit, you know, whatever, you know, there might be something that's happening already. So definitely I would advise that. So those are some opportunities.
Thank you. And Elizabeth asked, or she mentioned, I work for the Utah State Historic Preservation Office, and I would love to know how SHPO can support THPO in Utah, Uinta and Ore tribe and Navajo Nation, but others have histories in Utah.
Well, that is quite the question. I'm gonna have to stand up real quick. I think if I do this, I can actually bring up my chats. You can see them. There they are. Which one was it?
It's in the
I'm
Q&A
on
box.
I'm on a giant screen TV. But can you read that again?
Sure, it's Elizabeth, and it says, I work for the Utah State State Historic Preservation Office, and I would love to know how SHPO can support the THPO in Utah. And then in parentheses, it's Uinta and Ore tribe and Navajo Nation, but others have histories in Utah.
Oh, okay. Got it. You can close that. So you're talking about the SHPO in Utah, how they can support the THPOs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I mean, it's there's supposed to be an open communication. I know we have a communication with our SHPO here, and so we try to maintain that communication. There's always some kind of meeting going on, but I think it's just a matter of reaching out. I think so many agencies and institutions don't really reach out. Instead, they wait to be called upon so that, you know, they can work with the tribes. But if you were to reach out and, you know, have some, you know, idea or just create that relationship, and it depends on what the question is alluding to, because it's pretty broad. Like, you know, how can they help? And I would say in what capacity, because every types of help or need really varies. Some can be just a simple phone call, others may require a meeting, you know, and then you might end up having to go to the council chambers. So again, you know, it's a really broad question. Thank you.
Thank you. And next question from Marilyn. I may have missed how long you you're in this position, can you share any experiences that you feel have resulted in very positive outcomes for your people and other experiences that felt discouraging?
I've been in this position since 2019. I started September 1st, and I've been here, it's gonna be almost 3 years. And I started out as a senior archaeologist, and our director resigned and moved on. One of his goals was to get a Hualapai person into this position, and I was very interested because it had been one of my goals was to be a director of a cultural resources department, which is kind of an odd thing when you think about it. But you know, after working with the Southwest Native Nations Advisory Board through ASM, I was able to be really specific in what my goals would be. So being here and being able to utilize my my experience in organizing, writing. Right now, I think maybe I could say a positive thing that's happening right now is that every year we pay our respects. It's like a ceremony, and we do this run. It's a memorial run. It's our version of the Trail of Tears, and it's called the Hualapai's Trail of Tears Run, and that happens every year. Unfortunately, since the pandemic, we haven't had the chance to do that for 2 years, and it's been really heartbreaking for the community. So that became very, you know, it just became not an issue, but something that, you know, there was a need for it. And the department or the program that had organized that or facilitated that was dissolved. And again, that's one of the discouraging things is that, you know, so many of these different programs dissolve and then they come back and then they dissolve. So when that specific program dissolved, the Hualapai's Memorial Run was put on hold, not only because they dissolved, but because of COVID and because of the pandemic. So it took quite a bit of like, okay, what do we do? And so we took it on. Actually, at the here comes the train. There's one more. They usually do 4 horns, but there he goes. So not my, but the staff here was a little resistant. They're like, why are you taking on the cause? It's a lot of work. And I had observed and went to several meetings and learned about the Hualapai's Memorial Run. I had never participated in one. I'd never been to one, but from the information that I was getting from the community members and the departments, it's a well-oiled machine, and everybody just steps up and they do it. So all they needed was a facilitator, and with my experience of, you know, putting together spreadsheets and getting people together and organizing, I think that's been a really positive component in making sure that, you know, this run is running smoothly. And I, you know, told the community members and the department people who come to the meetings, you know, just I'm facilitating and I'm taking care of the logistics. So just know that, you know, I understand the significance and how sacred this is, but, you know, I might seem a little like, you know, preoccupied, like, you know, gotta buy this, gotta do that. But a lot of that is needed so that you guys can run and be comfortable and, be able to go through that. So that's kind of a positive thing. And like I shared with you, with the frustration is the funding. That's, something that we struggle with here on a day-to-day basis. And with the pandemic, that really killed us. I wouldn't say killed us, but our economy, we rely heavily on tourism because we have the skywalk and we have river rafting business. And when the pandemic hit, everything shut down. So we generated no revenue, no money. And then we're slowly picking it up and coming back. And that was a little scary. We didn't know what was going to happen day to day. Our community is extremely small, and we really had to go on lockdown and keep an eye on each other. And, it hasn't slowed down. We're still dealing with it. For a while over the holidays, I think we were averaging 3 to 4 funerals a weekend. And I almost just left. I just couldn't take the grief. That was really hard. It was really hard. But when I'm here, when I go home to my little home site, it feels good. I feel like I'm home. But anyway, hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you. Another question from Martha. What ways could the Hualapai, Diné, Hopi, etc. advocate on Capitol Hill to do away with the Mining Act of 1872 now on the books, which continues to open up mining on U.S. lands by any international or domestic private contractors?
Well, I think, somebody back then planted a seed, and I'm part of that seed growing. And I need to plant more seeds, because I don't think in my lifetime we're going to be able to do away with that 1872 mining law. And right now, there is an amendment, there is a push. We signed a petition to amend it to make it more, to make it stricter for corporations. But for it to completely go away, that's something that will have to happen in another lifetime, because that thing is, again, if you really understand politics and how our country runs, the mining law favors our corporations, and in order for our country to survive and thrive, we need those corporations, especially when it has to do with mines, when it has to do with development, and they're intruding on our public lands and our ancestral territories. But a lot of those corporations are not from the United States. And when we have politicians and people who are out of tune and don't really have any relationship to the area, the environment, then it's like out of sight, out of mind. Go over there, go dig, go drill, because there's still that mentality that it's just barren land. It's not that big of a deal. Go dig it up, without any thought for people. And then just having these people come around, I think of them as parasites, trying to talk us into being a part of that, because it would bring jobs and opportunity, but it won't. So the thing is, for now, is to continue to fight, make sure that we have a lot of legal support, and keep planting those seeds. Just keep planting those seeds, because there's someone who's coming up right now that is probably got the answer, and will just take it to task. And yeah, that's my perspective.
Thank you. And another question from Melody. Ocio, what is the best approach to take with non-Indian communities about tribal archaeology?
That's a good one. Probably in my younger days, the approach was more aggressive. Right now in our community, it's been really lovely. We have one example that I can tell you that we're doing is we do presentations at the high school. Our community, our main town is Peach Springs, and then just west of us is the small town of Kingman. And so we often go there once a year or once a semester to do presentations about the tribe, and we take them out to Fort Beale and teach them about the La Paz story, the Trail of Tears. So education has been a really positive thing to do. And I have to tell you, I'm not the one that starts anything. Things have always been moving. And I found out that presentation, the reasons why the presentations happen is that several years ago, a young woman, Hualapai woman, when she was a teenager and going to school at Kingman High, she asked her history teacher, why aren't we learning about my people? Why don't we know the history of our area? And the teacher said, well, if you want to learn it and you want us to know about it, bring in some of your elders. So the young lady came in, found out that she could actually talk to people here at the cultural center, and the staff was amazing. They put together a small team, and they go there. They've been going there for the past 5 years, and it's just growing and growing. I was able to attend one and watch them to learn more about what they do. And I made sure I counted all the students in that auditorium, and there must have been at least 200 kids in that auditorium learning about the Hualapai. And it comes in 2 sections. It's a speaking component where they're in the auditorium, and then they go to lunch, and then they take them out to Beale Springs, because Beale Springs in Kingman was a fort, and that's where they were holding our ancestors captive before they marched them down to Parker area, which was called La Paz, because that was a fort too. So teaching them these things, the kids coming up and saying, I didn't even know this was here. I didn't even know that this is why it was here. And it's very educational. So I think that's a really positive thing in working with the local community. And right now we're really excited with our gardening project. So we're thinking of other avenues of actually bringing people in so that they can actually, just be a part of the community. And it's, our community members, they're extremely outgoing, they're very proud, and they're just really strong people. And again, I can't say how much I am. I'm just so proud to be here.
Great, thank you. Question from Elizabeth. I am a public archaeologist, so I do not do compliance. I am looking for other ways I can be a good partner with our tribal colleagues.
Yeah, a public archaeologist. And that would be more like modern contemporary types of studies, correct? Did they answer?
Let me allow Elizabeth to unmute and she can clarify that. Hang on just a minute. Have to find her name in this long list here. Here we go.
Anyway, I will tap dance while we're waiting. Just kidding.
Okay, go ahead, Elizabeth.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for your time, Ms. Dawley. This is actually a clarification to my earlier question. So I'm public archaeologist at the Utah State Historic Preservation Office. And so what I'm saying is I don't do the compliance side. I have before done section 106 and our Utah equivalent of that. But fortunately, I'm able to do public outreach. And so my understanding is that a lot of THPOs, you guys just get a lot of compliance projects coming your way. And it can, I mean, I know this from being a compliance officer, it can be your whole day. And so what I do is more of the public outreach, and people in Utah are interested to know more about the tribes. But what I find is that tribes don't often have time to make that connection with various types of audiences. And so I'm trying to be a liaison for that, to try to hopefully just connect people with people, right? And so I guess what I was in general looking for is, I mean, obviously more outreach. Are you into an Ure reservation? Their THPO is brand new as of earlier this year. And the Navajo Nation obviously spans a lot of three different states. So I was just wondering, maybe in places that don't even have THPOs, how I can be a good partner to tribal colleagues.
I see. Oh, yeah, definitely. Now I get your question. I think specific to Navajo and the brand new person, don't give up emailing or calling. I know you feel like you're a nuisance because I can honestly tell you, I'll get emails, but then I'll have like, which I feel like is a gazillion emails. So if someone emails me in the morning and I don't see it, and I finally get to it later in the afternoon, and then I'll wait and answer it tomorrow since it's like, you know, late in the day. So a lot of that just gets lost. And then sometimes a lot of it goes into the junk mail. And the phone calls, they can get really frustrating and tedious because sometimes you don't know who to call, who to contact. But if you're there to help a brand new THPO, especially when it comes to, you know, how to operate, you know, if they have any questions, just reaching out and letting them know that you're there and having a very informal talk or chat with them, and, you know, not have to schedule like any kind of like firm meetings, but just don't give up trying to catch up with them. And, you know, just be simple and say, you know, do you have a couple of seconds to chat? You know, that way they don't feel like, oh my God, I gotta talk to some agency for an hour. And, you know, because it does get a little tedious at times when you have to be on, you know, 1 minute you're talking about something from ADOT and the next minute you're talking about something else. And, you know, I've embarrassed myself so many times because I'm talking to somebody from one project and then I'm talking about a different project, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, you know. So just, yeah, don't give up reaching out. That's my advice, because as the tribal liaison at ASM, that's what I did. I was very persistent, but not in a bugging way or a nagging way. And I went out of my way to go visit the community. And even if it was on the weekend and I was traveling, I'd go through the community and go meet up with people and just, you know, see what's going on. You don't have to do that, but you can actually arrange a time to just go, you know, do a meet and greet. But again, just don't give up. That's just, you know, your services are really important. And, you know, I think even if you reach out to one person, you're successful.
Thank you for your advice and insight. I definitely know what you're talking about with some of that. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I've had to call and find out where somebody was once, and then I ended up finding them at a different department, because I think being a tribal member, I have a little bit more comfort in saying, so they're at the store, what's the number over there? Or, it's just, it's a very small town, so you can actually find somebody. I mean, and this was not actually related to being a tip or anything, but once I was trying to look for somebody and I found them at their dialysis appointment, doing their thing, and it was so funny. They're just hooked up to the machines and talking to me, and they're all like, "Hey, how you doing? I'm trying to contact you," and they're like, "Oh yeah, my phone died," So it's kind of goofy, but I don't know. Yeah.
Thank you. And Jennifer has a question. Have you worked with the Arizona Site Steward Program, which helps monitor your traditional sites on public lands?
Not yet. We plan to. We are very interested in site stewardship.
Thank you. And Claudia, what do you want non-native people to understand about your work and challenges facing the tribe?
That we actually exist. I kind of say that half jokingly because, Hualapai is up here in the corner, but when you are looking at Native peoples in general in all of the United States, the ones that jump out at you are, especially in Arizona, are the Navajo and any of the Pueblo peoples, especially like the Hopi and the Zuni. But we're here too, and there are other tribes in the area. I think it's really important to actually know who your neighbors are. As far as being Hualapai, it's really important for the people who live outside of a reservation know who we are and know that they are on our ancestral territories. Because our reservation lands are really small compared to our ancestral lands. Our reservation lands were established in 1883 through an executive order, and 1883 is quite a few years from 1830, because a lot of you may remember the Indian Removal Act that started in 1830s back east, moving, a lot of indigenous people to Oklahoma. We didn't feel the effects until 30, 40, 50 years later. And people started moving west with Western expansion. And, and here we were. So when you look at pictures that were taken of the Hualapai people, they were literally homeless. So when you see them in the small huts, just looking completely hungry and, a lot of them were starving. So our ancestors had to adjust to the life ways of what was coming towards them. We fought really hard to keep our ancestral territories, but over time, with the diseases coming in, with the, people coming through, we ended up succumbing to the US military, and that was a really, really devastating time. And that, to know that we also experienced Indian removal, and that our ancestors worked and, well, I wouldn't say work, but they were extremely determined to survive and make their way back here, who were Hualapai. And when they left and escaped from the internment camps, they were able to walk and find their way, because there are areas, there are springs, there are places that we're familiar with, the different foods on the land, you know, we knew what to look for. Our ancestors knew what to look for and to eat and to take care of themselves. So for non-native people who are our neighbors, you know, they need to understand that, you know, they are on our ancestral homelands, and that as people living on a reservation, the reservation was not given to us. You know, it is not a privilege or anything that was given to us. We don't get free money. We don't get money to go to school. We don't get free health care because, you know, we get, these are things that were in exchange for our lands. So this is what we're left with. So it would be great for non-native peoples to really do their own research and learn more about native people and indigenous people, and learn, you know, where these different events and specific, you know, policies were happening within regular American history, because it's in there, it's embedded, it's in there, but you know, that's not taught in our schools, and that's something that's coming. You know, that seed has already been planted, and as you all know, we see these classes being taught in college, and you know, they're trying to teach them in high school, but there's still resistance because there seems to be a weird threat that, you know, there's going to be some kind of revolution, but no, that's not really the case. You know, we need to be able to learn from each other and know, you know, who's here, where did they come from, you know, to really understand our you know, our relationship to this land and our relationship to the area. You know, one thing I really found quite funny was that I told you my band is from the Big Sandy, and the Big Sandy is located right at the northern edge of the Sonoran Desert. So there's definitely a lot of saguaros and all kinds of desert type plants up there, because of course it's part of the Sonoran Desert. And I lived in Tucson for a long time, and when I would travel and I would come back to Tucson, I always wondered why it felt like home, because I could smell all the, you know, the dirt and the plants. And being from Big Sandy, I think that really told me a lot, because I was so ashamed of myself. I went with my husband to upstate New York into the woods, and I pretty much had a panic attack from the trees. And you know, it's funny now, but I was so embarrassed because the word Hualapai is people of the tall pines. And I'm all like, oh my goodness, I'm not a very good person of the tall pines. I'm afraid of the trees. But now I understand it's because of my band and where I'm from and what, you know, has been a part of me and, you know, has been passed on through the generations. So it's quite understandable. Yeah, I can ramble. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. And another question, Catalina, how do you go about collaborating with other THPO and tribal nations, and how often do you do so?
Because this is my first stint as a THPO, I am starting. We are beginning a coalition, so that's one thing that we're working on. Some of the other cultural departments have reached out and asked if, you know, I can help them do that, and we're definitely in the works of creating that. But as far as partnering and collaborating, you know, right now we're working together dealing with the snow bowl. I'll be working with the other communities dealing with the lithium mining. We're actually working with the other tribes along the river and near us with a specific area that we're designating as a TCP. So I can't really put my hand on, yeah, there's just a lot that we actually collaborate with when it comes to working together. And then specific to this area, we're actually preparing for our pie gathering. And so that's all the pie tribes coming together, and that's organized through the cultural resources departments.
Okay, I think that's it for questions so far. Have a couple comments. Thank you for the information. It's great. Thank you for your time and insight. Thank you very much for your leadership, guidance, brilliance, strength, and courage. From Melody.
Aww.
And Janet, thank you for your insight and information. So I don't know if there's any more questions.
A lot of kudos in the chat.
And I'm sitting in the cultural department here. This is our large conference room. And as you can see, there's all kinds of cool things on the wall. And yeah. How can you contact me? I think Al can make that connection. You can email me. Actually, if you go to Hualapai Tribe Government and go to our website, you can click and navigate until you find the cultural resources, and we do have a list of all our staff and our email addresses, so you can actually shoot me an email. And don't be discouraged if I don't answer for 2 days, but I will answer.
Oh, okay, someone just asked, can you comment on your jewelry?
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, the jewelry was given to me by my sister, because she's always wanting to make sure that I have some nice jewelry. Here's this really lovely cup. And I can't remember the name of the artist who put this together, but they are Hualapai. So we have some really great jewelers and beaders in the community. So thank you. And then this skirt, my sister wanted me to wear this. She actually bought it from another woman who makes skirts. My sister does make skirts, and she was making me one just especially for the presentation, and I was distracting her on the phone and she sewed her finger. But she's okay. We just kept laughing about it. But yeah, this is a Hualapai skirt, and with the community, with the women that I work with, when you're presenting, you know, it's customary to make sure that you're wearing your skirt. And yeah, so I didn't want to get in trouble in case there were any Hualapais watching that I wasn't wearing the skirt. Just kidding.
Awesome. You look great, Martina. It's very fitting for International and Intertribal Women's Day.
Ah.
So if that is it on comments and questions, I appreciate everybody. I wholeheartedly appreciate you, Martina, for coming and bringing us this great information. On behalf of Old Pueblo, thank you so much. And to the audience, thank you for coming out and attending. Thank you for the great questions and comments of gratitude to Martina and Dr. Dawley, excuse me. And please consider making donations to help support Old Pueblo's education programs. Thank you all and good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Martina.
Hanukkah.